Welcome, dear children, to today's session in physics. Today we are starting with the new chapter, chapter 3, motion in a straight line. First, let's discuss something about different branches of physics. In physics, there are different branches: mechanics, electronics, thermodynamics, kinetics, like that. Different branches are there. So in the first, that means this year we are focusing on mechanics, mainly on mechanics. So in mechanics itself, so what is mechanics? It is the branch which deals with the cause and effects of motion. Okay, so that mechanics itself is divided into two branches: kinematics and dynamics. One more branch we say statics, where we deal with the studies of stationary objects. Okay, the motion of moving objects we deal with in two branches like kinematics and dynamics. In kinematics, we deal with the study of motion. That means we will study the characteristics of motion. What do you mean by velocity? What is speed? What is acceleration? The equations of motion, such things comes under kinematics. Various graphs, such things come under kinematics. In proper dynamics, we are concerned mostly with the cause of motion. How a body is coming into motion, you know it only under the action of a force. So force is the cause of motion. So about that cause of motion we will be studying in dynamics. Okay, so kinematics, the word, you know that kinema, it is a Greek word and it means what? Motion. So that is what kinematics. So these two chapters, no, chapter 3 and chapter 4 actually belongs to this first group, that is kinematics, that where we will be characterizing motion. Okay, so the important concept which we will be following in these chapters is a point object or point mass or a particle. When we speak about the moving objects can be a bus, a train, or an aeroplane, like that. Any object it can be. So the thing is this, what do you mean by point object or point mass is this: when we compare the size of the object with the distance traveled by the object, that size of the object is negligibly small. For example, you take the case of a line bus. Okay, you may feel like the bus is having big size. Yes, it is there. But you just compare its size with the distance it travel in one day. One day, that bus, it's not the stationary bus I am telling, the bus is in motion. So how much distance that bus will be traveling? So in comparison with that distance, the size of the bus is very small. So that concept is called as what? Point mass concept. That is, size of the object is less than the distance covered by the object, then the object is considered as a point object. So we replace that big size bus with a single point, so that that point is having the same mass as that of the bus. Okay, so that concept is called as point mass or point object. Now, coming to the word motion and rest. When will you say that an object is at rest? At rest, when will you say if the object does not change its position with respect to the surroundings with the passage of time, is we say the object is in the state of rest. When we look in the what, suppose we are sitting at home, we are looking outside, the trees, everything do not change its position with respect to time. So those objects are at rest. Okay. Another example I'll tell. Suppose you are in a car. The car is moving, okay, with a particular speed. Along with that car, another car is there moving with the same speed. Okay. So when you look on the side, so on the road, parallel tracks, the two cars are going. Okay. So when you look on your right side, always that car is there. Do you feel any change in position? No change in position. So with respect to you, that second car may be at rest because there is no change in position. Always when you look outside, that car is there. So that's the case. That means motion and the state of rest are relative. Okay. When will you say that a body is in the state of motion? When it changes its position with respect to time. Got it? We will discuss these things in detail. This shows, that means when you stand in a road and you are seeing the vehicles passing by, you can say that those vehicles are in the state of motion. Okay. If the passengers, that means the reverse thing, that means you are inside the bus. Okay, the bus is in motion actually. But what do you feel actually standing inside the bus? You may feel like you are in the state of rest and the surroundings, that means the trees, the shops, etc., whatever you see, all those surrounding objects, they are moving backwards, like that you will feel. Is it not? So that's what we mean by the state of rest and state of motion are relative. Relative means not in relationship, not like that. Relative, that means only with respect to something we can state the state of rest or state of motion. Okay, with respect to me, somebody is in the state of rest or in the state of motion. With respect to my house, it's something is in the state of rest and something in the state of motion. With respect to my car, it is in motion or in the state of rest, like that. That's what we mean by relative. Okay, it doesn't mean that motion and state of rest are relatives. Don't take it in that sense. Okay, so again the same concept. We are, that means the objects in the state of motion and in the state of rest. So the thing is this, there is nothing like absolute motion or absolute rest. Even if you just think you are sitting at home and you are in the state of rest, but where is your house situated? On the surface of earth. Is earth at rest? No, isn't it? Earth has got two types of motion. One is its rotation about its own axis and the other is revolution. It revolves around sun. So these two motions are there for earth and we are on the surface of that earth. So are we absolutely at rest? No. Okay. So rest and state of motion, they cannot be absolute, like, okay. So the thing is this, we can state the state of rest or the state of motion only with respect to something. Okay. So that is the concept of the state of rest and the state of motion. Motion itself can be classified on different bases. Okay. In one categorization, we have different types of motion like translatory motion, rotatory motion, oscillatory motion. You can see the zigzag motion, up and down motion. Up and down motion only called as oscillatory motion. So we categorize motion like this. So what do you mean by translatory motion? The type of motion in which body is undergoing a change in position. Okay. Rotational motion means the path followed by the body is circular. And oscillatory motion means what? This up and down motion, vibratory motion, like that we call oscillatory motion. Up and down, left right motion, that means to and fro motion. All those terms stand for oscillatory motion. So these are, according to one categorization, the different types of motion. So again, what is that? Rectilinear motion. The same thing, that translatory motion or rectilinear motion. The motion in which the particle moves along a straight line is called rectilinear motion. That is the same as translatory motion, circular motion, okay, and oscillatory motion. Now, another categorization is there in which the motion is classified into 1, 2, and 3 dimensions. So, what do you mean by dimension? So, this word may be new to you. Dimensions. So, motion in 1 dimension, motion in 2 dimension, motion in 3 dimension. So, you just consider the movement of a bead, okay, along a string. So you have a string, on the string you have a bead. So the string is stretched on two sides. So this bead can move along the string, okay. So in what all directions the bead can move? If the string is in what horizontal direction, this bead can move either towards left or towards right, isn't it? If the string is in horizontal direction, the bead cannot go up and down. It has only two possibilities. That is, it can either go to left side or to the right side. Okay. So the thing is this, the motion of the bead is in only one dimension. So you need only one coordinate to characterize its position at any instant of time. Characterizing position means what? Stating where lies the object. So we say at t equal to 1 second, this bead is at x equal to 2 centimeter. So you take an origin, from that origin at 2 centimeter is the bead. Stating like that, we say characterizing the position. So in characterizing position, you need only one coordinate, either x coordinate or y coordinate or z coordinate. Only one coordinate is needed to state its position, isn't it? So in that way we say it is a motion in one dimension. So as the table says, when only one coordinate of the position changes with time, it is said to be moving one dimensionally, because there is only change in one coordinate. Or we can speak in the way which I explained. Only one coordinate is required to characterize the state of motion, or to characterize the position of the body at any instant of time. Okay, so that type of motion we call as one dimensional motion. So examples of one dimensional motion, which are the examples of one dimensional motion? When a bus is moving along a straight road, we take it to be one dimensional motion. Okay, the case with a falling object, when a body falls from a height, the case of a falling object also we consider as a one dimensional motion. Okay, so there are many examples of one dimensional motion. When we come to our topic now, we will be discussing. Now coming to two dimensions. So two dimensional motion means what? Two dimensional motion. So we consider another object. That means you might have seen some insects walking on the walls at home when you're sitting, maybe a lizard crawling on the wall. Okay, so how it is moving? It's not moving in a straight line, isn't it? It's moving in a plane. It is moving in a plane. Or when you write with your pen in your notebook, okay, the tip of the pen is moving, is it not? Tip of the pen is moving. So the movement of the tip of the pen on the surface of notebook, okay, in what way is it moving? In straight line? No, it's moving in a plane. So that is an example of what the motion in a plane. Then when the teacher writes on the board with chalk, the tip of the chalk moves on the surface of the board. So that movement of the tip of the chalk also is an example of two-dimensional motion or plane. So in such cases, the object is moving in a plane, and one coordinate is not enough to describe the motion of the object, is it not? We need at least two coordinates to describe the state of motion, or as it is stated here, two coordinates will be undergoing change when an object moves in a plane. So we say that type of motion as what? Two-dimensional motion. Got it? So two-dimensional motion, as I said, whenever we see motion in a plane, it is a two-dimensional motion. When carom coins, when they move over that board, no, that is two-dimensional motion. Okay, so that is an example. So like that example, generally we say circular motion is a two-dimensional motion. So such things we'll be discussing in detail. So that is what two-dimensional motion. So motion in a straight line, one-dimensional motion. Motion in a plane, two-dimensional motion. And coming to motion in space. Motion in space is called three-dimensional motion. So three-dimensional motion means what? All the three coordinates we require to specify the position of an object at any instant of time. Okay, motion of a kite, when a birds fly, when an aeroplane passes, all such motions we can consider as motion in space. So we need three coordinates, or all the three coordinates will be undergoing change during that motion, and we call it as three-dimensional motion. So this shows the examples of one-dimensional motion, two-dimensional motion and three-dimensional motion. A moving train, okay, it is one dimensional motion. Then a falling object, it is one dimensional. Carom coins, movement of the carom coins on the surface of the carom board, okay, that is an example of motion in two dimension. Motion in three dimension means bird flying, or an aeroplane, or flying kite, all are three dimension. So hope you understood the difference between one-dimensional motion, two-dimensional motion and three-dimensional motion. In this chapter, we will be studying about one-dimensional motion, or motion in a straight line. So here we start with characterizing one-dimensional motion. Okay, first we need to discuss terms like position, frame of reference, path length, displacement, etc. Frame of reference is a term we need to discuss. First, what is position? Position means what? Very simple. It is the point where an object is situated. Okay, so how you characterize position? With the help of coordinate axis. Okay, you will use certain units to specify the position. Okay, as I was telling the case with the bead, at t equal to 1 second, the bead is at x equal to 2 centimeter. Stating like that, we say as position. Now coming to the term frame of reference. Frame of reference means a platform of observation. Platform of observation means what? See, as I said, you are sitting in the car. Suppose the car is at rest. Okay, you are looking outside. You can see some objects at rest, and you can see some other objects being in motion, some vehicles in motion. So you are sitting in the car and looking outside. So sitting in the car, that car is a frame of reference actually. Okay, and when the car starts moving, the frame of reference also is moving, and with respect to that, you can state the state of rest or state of motion of other objects. So the platform of observation is generally called as frame of reference. As you can see in this picture, a train, the passenger is standing in the platform and the train is moving. Okay, so platform, it is at rest, that platform is a frame of reference. In the second case, the person is standing in the train, okay, and he is observing. So the train has become the frame of reference. So the thing is this, a platform of observation, we call it as frame of reference. But when we come to the general terms, no, frame of reference, actually how we take a frame of reference actually. It is usually considered as origin and position of moving object given by the x, y, z coordinate. So in motion in one dimension we take only x coordinate. So with the proper coordinate system and origin we can specify the state of rest or state of motion. That way we fix the frame of reference. So don't be confused with the word frame of reference. So frame of reference simply means what? A platform of observation. Only that much we need now. Here we discuss the two terms path length and displacement. What is meant by path length? Path length means it is the length of the path covered by the body. It is otherwise called as distance. So path length or distance. We can use any term, no problem, and it means the length of the path covered by the body. And what type of quantity it is, scalar or vector? What do you mean by scalar and vector quantities? The quantities which do not require direction, or the quantities which has magnitude alone, such quantities are called scalar quantities. And vector quantities means they have both direction and magnitude. Such quantities are called vector quantity. So path length or distance is a scalar quantity and it will always be positive. The path length will always be positive. We'll explain it with the help of example. Displacement means what? Displacement means the change in position. Displacement is the change in position. So if x1 is the position of an object at time t1 and x2 at time t2, then displacement represented by delta x. So displacement is represented by delta x. Delta x is equal to x2 minus x1, that is final position minus initial position. So if you know the positions of an object at two instants of time t1 and t2, the change in positions gives you the displacement. And you know displacement is a vector quantity. It has both direction and magnitude. Okay, so when we speak about direction, how we incorporate direction in one-dimensional motion? As I said earlier, in one-dimensional motion, there are only two possibilities. If the object is moving in horizontal direction, the object can move either towards right or towards left. If the object is moving in vertical direction, it can either go up or down. So in one-dimensional motion, always there are only two possibilities. So direction, only two possibility means it is very easy to incorporate that direction by associating positive and negative sign. So by using this positive and negative sign, we will be showing the direction in one-dimensional motion. So in horizontal direction, towards right means we will take as positive, towards left we will take as negative. In up and down motion, that means upward direction we consider as positive and downward direction we consider as negative. Okay, so that's what what path length and displacement. Let's explain these terms more with the help of example. We consider an example. In this example, the origin and the positions of the car at different times are shown. Origin means what? The starting point. That means the position from where the object starts. Okay. Now, P, Q, R, they are the different positions of the object at different instants of time. Suppose we consider the motion of the car from O to P. Okay, so initial position is O and final position is P. So P, it is at 360 meter, origin is at 0. Okay, so for the motion from O to P, what is the path length or distance traveled? Path length or distance traveled is the length of the path traveled. So it is what? 360 meter. So path length, I am writing PL, path length is equal to what? 360 meter. Okay. Now for the same path, for the same motion from O to P, you consider the displacement delta x is equal to, what is displacement? It is final position minus initial position. Which is final position? Final position is 360 meter. So 360 minus what? Initial position is what? 0. So minus 0. So what is our displacement? Displacement is 360 meter. Got it? So path length and displacement are same in this case for the motion from O to P. Now we consider another motion, that is from O to Q. So for the motion from O to Q, O to Q means what? It starts from O, it goes to P, then goes to Q. That is the path actually. O to P, okay, O to P it goes, then it comes back to Q. Okay, so for that motion, what will be the displacement and path length? So we are considering which one? We are considering OQ. So let's deal with path length first. What is path length? Path length means, so it starts from O to P. Okay, so 360 meter is there. Then from P it goes to Q. So how much is the distance from 360 to 240? That distance is 120. So path length means it becomes OP plus PQ. OP plus PQ. So it will be 360 plus 120, that is equal to 480. So for this motion, the path length is 480 meter. Okay. Now let's see what about the displacement. So displacement delta x is equal to final position minus initial position. Where is the final position? Final position is Q and initial position is 0 or origin. So what is the change in position? 240 minus 0, that is it is equal to 240. Is that clear? So what is the displacement in this case? 240 meter. So path length or distance we got as 480 meter and displacement we got as 240 meter. So are they same? No. But for the path OP, for the motion from O to P, we got both the displacement and distance to be same. That is magnitude of displacement and the path length to be same. Here magnitude of displacement is 240 meter, path length is 480 meter, both are different. Okay. Now we consider another motion. That means we consider the motion from O to R. O to R means it goes to P, then comes to Q, then to R. So what did I say? It goes to, so we have, it goes to O, from O to P, then from P to Q, then from Q to R it goes. Okay, so the thing is this, P and Q, they lie on right hand side and R lies on left hand side. So for this motion, what will be the path length? Path length will be what? So as I said, it goes to P, then from P to Q, then Q to O, then only it goes to R. Okay, so O to P, what is the distance? O to P, it is 360. Then from P to Q, 120. From Q to O, it is 240. Okay, plus. Then from O to R, it is again 120. So let me ask whether you need to consider this minus sign here. No. In finding what distance or path length, you need not look at that. You need to find out only or consider only the what length not sign. So what is the sum of all these things? 360 plus 480. So path length becomes 840 meter. So that is the path length for the motion. Which one? O to R. O to R means not directly from O to R, O to P, then to R. Okay. Now what about the displacement? That displacement delta x is equal to what? What will be the displacement? Displacement, it is final position minus initial position, that is minus 120 minus r, that means origin, that is 0. So you will get it as minus 120 meter. Okay, so here the displacement is minus. Got it? So for the motion O to R, path length is 840 meter and the displacement is 120 meter. Displacement is minus 120 meter and path length is 840 meter. So this case also the magnitude of displacement is not equal to the path length. Okay, not only this, another conclusion we got, that is we discussed the case with what positive displacement, and now we got the displacement to be negative. So displacement can be positive or negative, and what does that positive or negative sign shows? The positive and negative sign shows the direction. Okay, so positive displacement, positive means what? The object was moving in positive direction. That means towards right it was moving. Okay, in this direction it was moving. Got it? Then when the displacement is negative, it means the object is moving in negative direction. So displacement can be positive or negative, and positive and negative sign shows the direction. Once again, we make comparison between displacement and distance. So what is distance? It is the actual path traversed by the body, and displacement is the difference in initial and final position. And distance is a scalar quantity, displacement is a vector quantity. Okay, so the distance will always be positive. Got it? It can never be negative or 0. But displacement can be positive, negative or 0. So when do we have 0 displacement? In that example, if the object starts from O, goes to B, then comes back to O. So initial position is O, final position also is O. So if the final and initial position coincide, the displacement will be equal to 0. But what about the distance traveled? It will not be equal to 0. That is the case with 0 displacement. So the displacement can be negative, 0 or positive. Now the next point, that is the distance traveled is either equal or greater than the displacement and is never less than magnitude of displacement. So this is a point to be noted. In the example, first example we discussed, in that case both distance and magnitude of displacement was same. But in the later examples, we got distance to be more than the magnitude of displacement. So that is the actual case. We will never get the reverse thing. That means magnitude of displacement can never be greater than the value of distance. So distance will always be greater than or equal to the magnitude of displacement. Displacement is written within two vertical lines. It means that magnitude. Okay, without considering the sign, we are speaking about that condition. So distance will always be greater than or equal to. Equal to means it can be, as we discussed in the first case, it can be equal to, but it will never be greater than. That means magnitude of displacement will never be greater than distance. Got it? Then distance depends on path traveled. But what about displacement? Displacement is independent of path followed. It depends only on initial and final position, because displacement is defined in such a way, that is, it is the difference in initial and final position. So here we have a special case, that is the zero displacement. I already explained. So the thing is this: if the body starts traveling, it starts from its position and it travels some distance and comes back to the initial position. So what is the case? Initial position and final position coincide. So when we find the difference, it will be equal to 0 and displacement will be equal to 0. So in such a case, displacement will be equal to 0. And in circular motion, generally we say the what displacement is 0. So these are the two cases where we have 0 displacement. So that is a point to be noted. Now coming to uniform motion and non-uniform motion, I hope you are familiar with these terms. A body is said to be in uniform motion if it travels equal distances in equal intervals of time along a straight line, however small these intervals may be. Okay, so if it covers equal distances in equal intervals of time, we say the body is in uniform motion. So for example, it's given a car running at a constant speed 10 meter per second. It will be covering same distance in equal intervals always. So that is what is shown here, and as per that a graph is drawn. Position, here it is shown distance time graph. We will discuss what position time graph. So time is taken along x-axis and distance is taken along y-axis. So we'll have the graph like this. Okay, now certain examples of uniform motion again given: aeroplane flying at a speed 600 km per hour, a train running at a speed 120 km per hour, and light energy traveling at a speed 3 into 10 raised to 8, and a spaceship moving at a speed 100 km per second, all are said to be in what? Uniform motion. Now when will you say that a particular object is in non-uniform motion? Non-uniform motion means if the object travels unequal distances in equal intervals of time. So in equal intervals, the object is traveling unequal distance. We call it as what? Non-uniform motion. Example, when a ball is dropped or when a stone is dropped from a height, the movement of that stone is non-uniform motion. There are many other examples also. We have what? The aeroplane running at a runway before takeoff, a freely falling body, and an object thrown vertically upward. All these are what? Examples of non-uniform motion. When the brakes are applied, the motion of a vehicle, that is an example of non-uniform motion. So if we draw distance time graph, you will get the graph like this. Okay, curved graph. Now one type of graph we will be discussing, that is position time graph. So position time graph means what? Time is taken along x-axis and x-axis, and position is taken along y-axis. That's what we mean by position time graph. For a stationary object, there is no change in position with respect to time. So we have a graph like this which is parallel to x-axis. So this shows a position time graph of a stationary object. Next, for a uniform motion, the graph will be like this. That is, it covers equal distances in equal intervals of time now. So when we draw the position time graph, for uniform motion, the graph will be a straight line like this. Now for non-uniform motion, it will not be a straight line like the case of stationary object or uniform motion. It will be a curved one. Okay, there can be any curvature. There is no specific curvature for a non-uniform motion. It can be in any shape. So a curved position time graph shows non-uniform motion. So in both ways you should learn. That is, if somebody asks you what is the shape of the graph, you should be able to say. If the shape of the graph is given, you should be able to identify the type of motion also. Okay, so further graphs we will be discussing, we will be studying in this chapter. So you should be thorough with each and every graph. So hope you followed today's session. So only this much. Thank you.